You're listening to Greener Lawn, Happier You, produced by Weedex Lawn Care. Join us as we explore all things related to your lawn. Whether you're a seasoned professional, like we are, or you're just starting out, this show is for you. So sit back, grab a drink, and let's grow together.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Greener Lawn, Happier You podcast presented by Weedex Lawn Care. I'm Brennan.
I'm Caven.
How have you been, bud? I know you've been in Grand Prairie at our kind of satellite office the last, week almost? So we haven't had a lot of time to talk. I know you've been riding around with guys dealing with lawns a little bit further south than where I'm located at. So how have you been?
Pretty good. Just dealing in a lot of more rural areas over there in some of those spots. So, a lot of drought stress, a lot of Dallas grass, and really hard to control weeds. Pretty good otherwise, yeah.
How's life outside of work? Everything good?
Everything's good outside of work, yeah. Just, staying steady. Just make sure you...
What do you do on the weekends since you're out in the heat every day? So do you try to just hibernate inside the house, inside the AC?
No.
Or do y'all get out and venture out and go do stuff?
Yeah. Saturday is the adventure day, since we don't have any kids or anything, we get to enjoy ourselves.
Because I could live vicariously through you.
Yeah.
Because even though I'm not out in the heat every day, I hate dragging a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old anywhere. So I try to definitely stay inside the house.
Yeah. No, we're always exploring areas. I mean, obviously, as you get older, you don't go party as much, so most of it is around food. So obviously, the Metroplex has a ridiculous amount of really good restaurants, so that's kind of one of those things that we try to do on the weekend.
Y'all just go to
find a new restaurant.
How are you finding these restaurants? Do y'all do what's that show on the Food Network? Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives?
You could use that, yeah.
Go hit up some Triple D spots.
No, I have got a great Instagram algorithm that feeds me tons of food.
Of course you do.
So as soon as a restaurant comes up, you get to see it, check it out, look at the reviews, and then you say, okay, we're definitely going here.
Yeah. My weekend consisted of chasing kids around and organizing a garage.
Yeah, I have a lot of stuff to do around the house as well because I usually don't complete that during the week. So, it's the mowings and the laundries and all the other stuff that you don't want to do throughout the week. Yeah, adulting.
No, the best part of our weekends usually with having 4 kids is just not having to have any Weedex people call you for 2 days. Right. That's the best part of my weekend at this point in time in my life.
Yeah, no vehicles breaking down, no major problems. No. Yeah, that's always a good thing.
So we're in the middle of August here. It's the dog days of the Texas summer. We had a week of high 80s, low 90 degree temperatures, which was a nice reprieve. That was about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now. But I would imagine for the foreseeable future will be, triple digits or dang near close to it until at least, mid-September?
Mid-September.
Most generally here in Texas?
Yeah.
So we've got a month left of just trying to get lawns to survive. Because we want to talk about, survival of lawns, whether it be Bermuda grass, St. Augustine, or zoysia, and those, few instances of fescue and things like that throughout the dog days of the summer, throughout this next month, when it's just going to be 100 degrees every day, no cloud cover and no rain. That's, kind of what we want to talk about today. What kind of some things you would, incur over the next month as far as pests and things like that. I think that's what we're going to delve in today. So we'll bring up first thing or pests. So Kevin, what are the pests that we're looking out for right now, whether you're a DIYer or, as our route managers are out servicing properties, what are they looking for?
Right now, as you're starting to see any type of yellowing, chlorotic growth in St. Augustine grasses due to drought stress or whatever it is, obviously we're looking for chinch bugs. Those are going to be the main bug that we're concerned about right now. We will slowly start to transition into getting those grub worms that could start to be active as well towards the end of the month. But what we've noticed recently is going to be the army worms that are starting to cause a little bit of damage.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it's a huge problem like it's been just sweeping across the Metroplex, but we have had some pockets that have had a little bit.
You like are reading my mind. Because I was going to say the same thing. It seems like it's been in pockets in like northern McKinney, Frisco, Plano area, maybe a little bit here in Flower Mound, but like that's where we're getting the most calls where they're saying they're seeing them. And I know Abby and I went out to try to shoot some videos on, what was that, Friday of last week, because we wanted to, catch some active army worms feeding on the leaf blades. And we went out on a cloudy day thinking that, okay, even around 9:30, 10 o'clock, you should see them out on the lawn because it's cloudy, or they usually feed early morning hours because they don't like to feed during the heat of the day.
Right.
But we didn't see but, one? We saw lawns that looked damaged, but I think we found one, and Abby's actually the one that found it in the lawn.
Hey.
So she was pretty proud of herself.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, even like I said, where we're getting the calls saying that they're seeing army worms feeding on the lawns, we're going out there and looking at it, and even the neighboring lawns. And it's not like where I've seen it in past years where it's just like widespread, just like every other lawn, you can tell they've been getting eaten up by army worms.
Exactly.
So I'm not saying that we haven't had a little bit of an outbreak this year, but I don't think it's been like it has in the past where like you'll get on a street in a neighborhood and like 60, 70, 80% of the lawns have been devastated by army worms. So for our homeowners that are listening, if you're not aware of what an army worm is, it's a surface feeding insect. It's basically a complete metamorphosis, so it goes all the way from egg to larva into caterpillar and just repeats that life cycle. And it is a caterpillar, even though they call it a worm. And it will migrate from, because it'll overwinter in, the southern half of, I don't know if it's Mexico or, we're at in South America that they're overwintering. And then they'll start to move north during the fall. The particular army worm that we deal with, the moth will migrate north. And they will keep doing that further north until, we get our first freeze, and then they'll die off. But they repopulate about every 21 days. So here in the Metroplex, if they're not moving further north and they're just kind of sticking around, they're laying their eggs, and every 21 days it's happening again. So even though you get your yard infested with army worms, say in August, it doesn't mean that you can't turn around in September and have another outbreak.
Absolutely.
And when you're looking at that worm, it is the reason I would imagine they call it army worm. I haven't done just extensive research on it, but I'm just looking at the worm, and it's kind of camouflage colored, and it marches across the yard from one lawn to the other. So I would imagine that's why they call them army worms.
And usually in large groups too.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm just putting things together. So I would imagine that's why they call them army worms, but they're not. Yes, they're devastating because they feed on and they eat all the top foliage, but they don't kill a lawn because they're not feeding on the root system. So if they go into a winter where we get a lot of freezes, say you get eaten up by army worms the end of August, middle of September, it doesn't have a chance to recover before it goes into, we go dormant, you can't recover the lawn, and then we get some snow or ice. Yeah, maybe it could cause some damage, but typically, there's no residual effects other than aesthetic appearance of the lawn that army worms cause.
Absolutely. Yeah, unless you have some other circumstance like shade issues or something that we're slowly starting to cause damage, it may not recover like it should have. But
you're right on that.
Otherwise, the only other thing is just time and recovery.
When you're right, you're right. That you do make a good point on that, because if you're a Bermuda lawn and you're already fighting shade issues and you've been working your butt off, mowing at a taller height and then they come in there and they rip all that foliage off, that could cause some issues later on. I've never really thought of it like that.
Yeah, so it may speed up the time of choosing a different grass and then getting that ready for the spring next year.
Yeah. And grubs, I'm not saying it's not too early. It's right about the time that you need to start thinking about it. If you're a DIYer and you're walking around your yard and your yard's green or whatever, it's always looked nice or whatever, and you see an area that's starting to kind of brown or yellow or even kind of an orange color, walk over there, and if you can pull on that grass and it just lifts right up with no root system attack, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be a grub issue. If you pull on it and just leaf blades come up in your head, maybe you need maybe you need to check your irrigation system to make sure you have, your head's pointed in the right direction. Grub worms, if you get them early enough, you find them in a couple spots in your yard, you can do a control, whether you're using a lawn care company or you're DIYer, and it kills them pretty rapidly. Whether it's granular or liquid, you can get it from Home Depot, spray it, or spread it out on your yard, water it in. Within days, the grubs are dead, and then the lawn can start recovering. But grubs, the good thing is with it is you can put down a systemic insecticide earlier in the year, June into May, that can control grubs really, really effectively. And armyworms you can too. Like this year, like I was explaining to a homeowner when Abby and I went out, and maybe even in our video that we did about our little blog post that we did about armyworms, is we do a control for armyworms. We usually don't start it until about the middle of August. Sometimes the armyworms will kind of like break out a little bit premature to us starting our control. But the good thing is with our product is it's a knockdown and a 3-month control product. As far as like what the products are at Home Depot, I think there are some of them that give you some residual control. So if you're a DIYer and you're buying it, I'm not going to be the expert, and I don't know if you are, Kevin, unless you want to fess up to it.
No.
And like what products they can go out and buy that will, give them knockdown and residual, or what that looks like. I'm just not an expert in that.
I would imagine the residual is going to be minimal, though, maybe a 30 to 60 days tops.
I think that's kind of what I was thinking off the top of my head. I think we put an article together for our CSR staff, and I think there's a product that we looked up that gives like a 30 to 60 day residual. And I know ours does 90, but a 30 to 60 day residual is not bad.
No.
I mean, because you're probably getting the product fairly cheap at Home Depot, Lowe's, Callaway's. Even if you have to put it down twice, I mean, it's still relatively, I'm sure it's not too expensive.
No, not at all.
So if you're a DIYer, that's how I would be protecting myself right now. I'm not saying IPM, integrated pest management. It just depends. Like if you travel a lot, maybe you want to just go ahead and be proactive and spray your lawn with an insecticide for armyworms. If and I want to just always reference Bermuda grass, because most likely if you have armyworms, you have Bermuda grass. I'm not saying they won't feed on zoysia or St. Augustine, but from my experience, I think their preferred turf grass is Bermuda. That's where we see most of the damage in, is the Bermuda grass, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. I would also say, it just kind of depends on the area as well. I mean, if you've got an extremely heavily shaded area, it's going to be predominantly St. Augustine, so you could get some, that's going to be in those areas.
I mean, I've seen armyworms in St. Augustine, but it's been rare occasions. Like there was just nothing but St. Augustine around.
Grub worms, yes, but
grub
armyworms, very, very, very minimal.
Yeah, grub worms will feed on any type of turf grass.
Yeah.
But again, going back to my point, as far as like if you and your wife, or you travel a lot, whatever the circumstance is, you and your partner, and you don't have time to keep on looking at your lawn every other day or every few days to see, if it's starting to look, sparse or whatever, or kind of look like it's like maybe being scalped off a little bit from armyworms, or see the worms themselves, then you might just want to go ahead and protect yourself and go spray something on there, have your lawn care company spray something on there. If you look at your lawn every few days, then maybe you just, keep the approach of like, I'm not going to do anything until I see something. Because if you see them, then you can get on top of it pretty quickly. With grubs, I mean, I'm always, a believer in hitting them up with a control at the beginning of the year. Or not the beginning of the year, beginning of the summer.
Yep.
Yeah. And so, like, if this is your first year kind of at it, like, okay, if you get grubs this year, let's go ahead and do a curative. But next year, just go ahead and fit it into your lawn care program. Put it on your calendar of like every, end of May, 1st of June, I'm going to put down a grub control. So that way I don't have to worry about it in the fall. Exactly. I don't have to worry about really like, okay, yeah, if I see an area, I'm going to go look at it. But at least I feel more protected during that time of the year. I mean, chinch bugs, as a DIYer, I mean, really, if you have St. Augustine lawn, you just got to be vigilant with looking at it to make sure your irrigation system's working correctly. And if it is, then you got to, do that soap test, or you just got to know how to dig in the thatch layer on the, plant itself to find them. And then make sure that you maybe during the summer you have product on hand. Like go to Lowe's, go to Home Depot, go to Callaway's, and just put a bottle or two of it in your garage, so you're just prepared.
And the other telltale sign would be the damage onset rapidly. Within a matter of 3 days to a week, if you notice an area damage and it expands really quickly, it's probably not going to be drought stress, because that's a little bit more gradual. And you're going to see, the leaf blades turning a little bit of color. But, I mean, the chinch bug damage right now, this late in the season, is going to be pretty rapid.
Yeah. The toughest weeds that we fight as a lawn care company or DIY during the summertime, during, just the heat of the summer, I would say is spurge. Some people call it milkweed. Just because when you break the stem, I guess it protrudes like a white milky sap. But the industry name for it is spurge. There's several different kinds. There's like spotted spurge, prostate spurge. I think there's garden spurge. I might be even missing one. But it's in lawns that are not maintained well. I mean, it really thrives in lawns that are underwatered and undermowed. Not saying that we still don't fight it in lawns that are thick and lush, just because it is an opportunistic weed. Like if it fits in where it gets in, and it doesn't take much to survive. And pre-emergents don't work well on it. Any pre-emergent that you find is going to have like an asterisk beside spurge, as far maybe even a couple as far as prevention. So the biggest thing that we recommend to our homeowners, or if you're a DIYer, is to mow frequently, every 5 to 7 days, and to water, thoroughly to help us, control weeds during the summer. Obviously, we'll spot treat them when we're there, but we can't use pre-emergence during the summer, obviously, because we're going to, stunt or shut down grass development and growth. So other tough weeds, obviously, if you got crabgrass, it's a tough weed to control. Yeah. I've got a yard that I recently inherited, and I think Abby and I are going to do a docu-series on it, but there's probably 30% of it that's crabgrass, and I'm just watering it and mowing it. It looks damn good. And Abby and I were on a yard on Friday, and we walked across it, and Abby was like, "Man, this is a really nice yard." I was like, "Yeah, it's all crabgrass." I was like, "If crabgrass is mowed weekly and watered well, it looks great."
It looks great.
I mean, you keep it from populating a seed. It looks really good because it was a really nice looking lawn, and it was all crabgrass. Or crabgrass. Yeah.
You'll get some doveweed and some Virginia buttonweed in areas.
Those are really hard weeds to fight.
Yeah, those are pretty tough to fight.
I know here, and I know you and I haven't discussed this, the other problem is just finding the right combination of herbicides to fight weeds in a post-emergent stance during the summer that's safe for the grass and also is just broad spectrum and will kill a lot of different weeds. I know we struggle with that here at WeedX. It's like finding that, right combination too. Like, because the other problem that you're fighting is like, what, Bermuda can handle, St. Augustine or certain types of zoysias just can't handle. So it's making sure that we have the right combinations to fight those weeds. And I think that, we're probably going to go back to the drawing board here at WeedX. I think as homeowners, I think you probably have, as a DIYer, a little bit more room to be flexible just because you're just dealing with your own lawn. Like maybe you have just one type of turf grass, or you have two, but you just have two little hand cans or two backpacks and know that I can spray this on Bermuda. I need to spray this on St. Augustine. And we're probably going to have to do that here at WeedX, where we have two backpacks. This is what I spray on St. Augustine. This is what I spray on Bermuda. It's just typically the type of herbicides you can spray on Bermuda, you cannot spray on St. Augustine to battle weeds. So I know that's what we fight here at WeedX is like, yes, we would love to have just one backpack that we know can go out and spray every broadleaf weed, every grassy weed that we don't want in a lawn, and it just be the magic potion that kills the weed without damaging the grass. But it's just really hard to do because they don't make products out there that do that. I know we're probably, I've noticed this year, even in my own lawn, that because again, I picked up or inherited a lawn that wasn't taken care of very well. And the post-emergence we're using right now are killing some weeds, but not other weeds. And I just want to go back to the drawing board on that. Like I said, as a homeowner on the weed control, I first of all, make sure that you're controlling the weeds that you can control with pre-emergence and properly timing that. But as far as controlling weeds during the summer, the best method is going to be hand pulling them.
Yep.
I mean, to be 100% honest with you, if you're a DIYer and you've done your pre-emergence right, yeah, you might get weeds here or there. You're really just taking care of your own lawn. You should only have, minimal weeds if you've done pre-emergence, hand pull them. But if you absolutely have to spray them, just do your research and figure out, make sure you read the labels, what you can spray on your turf grass and be safe for it and kill the weed. Fertilizer, we'll hit on it a little bit as well, because fertilizer does go into the practicality of keeping your lawn healthy and lush and vibrant throughout the summer heat. It allows the lawn to survive. So some of the reasons why you need fertilizer is because it's just like you or I. You have to feed yourself. When do we do fertilizer, Kevin?
When do we do? Fertilizer would be generally from about March through the end of August. And then we start to go back into a pre-emergent as we start to cool back down to prevent weeds again for the fall and winter. Obviously, going through your peak growing season, as that grass slows its growth down before it goes into dormancy, it doesn't need as much water, nutrients, or any of those other things. So obviously, we're going to try to hit that in the peak growing season so we can give it everything it needs to be as healthy as possible.
And us as a lawn care company as well, we're servicing thousands and thousands of customers. We're not able to do a specific blend for each individual lawn. We have to use a blend that's going to suffice 98% of the lawns in the Metroplex. So yes, nitrogen is going to be the main component that you're going to need for top growth and greenness. The next component that you're going to need is going to be phosphorus and potassium. And we use all three nutrients. Are we using phosphorus and potassium as much as nitrogen? No, because it's not needed as much. Are we able to do a perfect 3-1-2 combo? Probably not, but we try our hardest. We also add some micronutrients in there as well. If I'm a DIYer and I'm doing fertilizer, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm probably not going to go pull a soil sample. I'm probably just going to try to go get something that's somewhat well balanced. My nitrogen somewhere right around, I'd say 18 to 28% every time I fertilize. I don't know if I'll put phosphorus every time I fertilize my lawn. I might just do a phosphorus maybe in the spring when I would do my lawn. And then I would do a potassium maybe again once in the spring or once in the summer. I wouldn't do a potassium every time. Nitrogen would be the main component in my fertilizer. I might do some micronutrients.
Like an 18-8-8 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. I mean, the textbook terminology, I think, is going to be like a 3-1-2 ratio. Like, you're going to have a 3 to a 1 to a 2 on your NPK. But again, if you truly want to know what your yard needs, then do a soil test.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to truly tell you what your yard needs, not even just a 3-1-2. They're just trying to say that because I guess over time or research, it tells you that that's what your yard is going to be in most need of. But again, I think you'd be fine just going to Home Depot or Lowe's as a DIYer, not having to go through pulling a soil test and doing all that extensive stuff. And just, my first fertilizer out of the spring, I'm probably just going to be solely concentrated on nitrogen, like an ammonium sulfate, just something that's going to just feed it fast right out of the spring. And that's probably going to be right around April, dependent on, I'll scout my lawn if I have Bermuda or whatever. And when and then I'll fertilize it, start to show me a little bit of green and the temperatures are right. Like my soil temps need to be 53, 54 degrees. And then 7 weeks later, I'm going to fertilize it again. And that's when I'm probably going to have some P and K in there and maybe a micronutrient package. then 6 weeks later after that, I'm probably just going to put down a straight slow release nitrogen. I mean, depending on like what my lawn looks like. If it's nice and healthy, I'm not going to put any P and K on it. And then I might fertilize it once again towards like, end of August with a higher P and K fertilizer to go into the winter. If I was, and maybe lower nitrogen if I was a DIYer. And we do similar things like that here at WeedX. Not exactly, but we do a similar program like that here at WeedX.
Right. Then you can do other things if you want it green, like iron or something
Ironite
like
and
that.
stuff like that.
But I mean, the residual on that's maybe 7 to 10 days. So it would be something you could implement in between some of the fertilizers just to keep it a little bit greener if you wanted. But it's not really needed.
And how you're going to do it, I mean, as a homeowner, you're probably going to buy a little spreader from Home Depot or Lowe's, one of those little, Let's Go spreaders and do it that way. I mean, here at WeedX, we do it in a liquid manner. We've not always done that. We've always done granular prior to that. We do see the advantages of doing it liquid. You don't have to worry about the granular prills all over the hardscape. But truly, it's because of the type of fertilizer that we're using is going to be as close to 100% use effective to the homeowner or to that turf grass as it can be. Like if you're using a granular fertilizer, you're having several different ways where you can lose that fertilizer, whether it's through volatilization into the atmosphere or leaching through the soil or whatever. With the type of fertilizer we're using, it's not able to do that.
And it's absorbed immediately too.
A lot of it will, yeah. You're not just getting having to have it absorbed through like the root fibers and the soil profile and all of that. You're getting foliar absorption as well with the liquid fertilizer. And it doesn't break down immediately. The type of fertilizer we're using, it will stick around for a while. So briefly, I also want to go over, since again we're probably about a month away from being just like grasses where they're starting to shut down because the day length periods are lower. That's what, more than anything in the fall, I almost feel like that's what starts shutting grass down, is not even cooler temperatures, but day length being shorter. It starts getting day or darker out more around like that 7:30, and then it starts, grass, you really can start mowing maybe even bi-weekly at that point in time. But until that point in time, we're August 13th today, be vigilant about your watering. If you're just kind of wanting to, like, maybe your grass is already a little droughty and you're just kind of wanting to like hit that final stretch, watering 3/4 of an inch to an inch a week's gonna do that and get you into dormancy with a decent stand of turf grass. Nothing's probably gonna die.
It'll survive.
It'll survive, and you can have a cheaper water bill. But if you want that lawn to thrive going into dormancy, keep watering that 1.5 inches a week until I would say middle into September.
Absolutely.
And then you can start backing off. As far as your mowing, I know you're tired of mowing every week. It sucks getting out there, but just be vigilant. You got a month of it left where you're mowing weekly, and give or take. And then you've got, after that, maybe 1 or 2 bi-weekly mows left.
Yeah.
That you have to do. And then I typically like to, soon as like we get that frost burn or whatever on our lawn, I like to clean cut my lawn.
Right.
And then you're done. Then you get a rest for a little while.
And keep it tall all winter. Don't scalp it, no matter how many people tell you to scalp it for the winter. Don't ever do that. You want that protection on that soil.
And that's the last thing I'll leave them with is, like, even our property here at WeedX, is it was looking really bad. And I'm like, I know we're watering it enough. I know we got the right fertilizer. Over a 3-week period, it's gone from like a 3 or a 4 to, like, wasn't that bad. It was like maybe a 5 or a 6 now to an 8.
8, yeah.
Just because they've raised the mowing by 3/4 of an inch. I mean, and the lawn looks really good just because they're not taking all the leaf blade off every time they cut. So I know we've got some questions here from Facebook. I'll start with the first one. It says, how do y'all deal with rabbits tearing up the yards? As far as how we deal with it at WeedX Lawn Care, we don't. Just because anything that we've ever used or researched or anything, it doesn't really fit into the program. There's a lot of products out there like rabbit scram, liquid fence, whatever it might be that you can use. But even if it is beneficial to keeping the rabbits deterred, it's only doing it for like a week at most, I've heard.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we couldn't be out on your lawn every week to put that product on there. So as a homeowner, the best way you can do it is in your backyard, make sure that all of the areas that they can access underneath the fence are secured with mesh, or, you know, maybe you have to put like a 2x6
garden
or
edging,
some sort of like metal edging there. In the front yard, there's not a lot you can do. You compost the areas that they're eating or feeding in, and like I said, you can get online, order some of those products and spray them on there yourself. But it is, you know, a task to keep rabbits out of the yard. We feel your struggle.
Other than sectioning it off somehow.
I don't have the perfect answer for you on it. It's just, you know, good luck fighting the battle.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure there's other methods that you can use, and heck with it. It's our podcast. We'll say it. You can go get a little like rifle, like an air rifle. Not like, I would not advise you going and getting a high powered rifle in the city of Frisco or McKinney, but you can get an air rifle. They sell them at, you know, most outdoor centers. And if you feel so inclined, I mean, start taking some rabbits out.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it. I don't think you're opposed to it. I mean,
It's whatever you feel comfortable with.
but it's whatever you feel comfortable with it, right? So that's really my only advice for you on the rabbits.
Yeah. There's not much you can do.
I'll let you look at this other one.
All right. So this one, update, looks like nothing is attached to it. I still thought it looks like a telecom. So we've got basically a post in the ground in an area. Someone just asking, you know, can it be removed? You know, this is one of those things where if you see anything in your lawn, obviously that's close to an electrical box or anything, you probably want to contact
city,
you probably want to contact the city or your electric company to see if that's something that is integral to your power or anything else. I mean, obviously you don't want to go poking around or pulling stuff out that might be used.
It looks like a lightning rod or a ground rod that they've, you know, I guess put into the soil, hammered into the soil, and they usually attach like a ground wire to it, and the person hit their lawnmower blade on it.
Right.
So that's just an area that you've got to remember, like, hey, that's there. I don't mow there. I weed eat there.
Weed eat it.
Like, that's...
So you can see it.
And you probably don't need to flag it off. Like, I think you can remember it. Like, just keep it stored up here in your brain. Like,
exactly.
This is a no-go zone with my mower. I weed eat this area.
Yeah.
And the yard, I just, like, these are recently updated photos, like, I mean, of this week, right, Abby? So that lawn, either A, that picture was taken back earlier this winter, or B, you have no point, like, you just need to burn that yard and start over.
Severely scalped or drought stressed or both. Yeah. So once again, just make sure you water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. I got the next question. So Armand, I'm not even going to try it, is probably in jail. That's their username.
That's good.
Yeah. It has their name, is probably in jail. Well, that's awesome. Why are they caring about their grass? They're probably in jail.
Your freedom's a little more
I have
important.
areas along my driveway where the lawn is 2 to 3 inches higher, and areas where it is completely flush with the concrete. Is this thatch, or do I need to peel back the sod and remove some earth? So obviously they have areas that maybe they've had some erosion along their curb or their driveway, like your edge area where you're typically edging, whether you're using a true edger with a metal wheel, or if you're using your string trimmer to edge. Yeah, so maybe they've lost some erosion. So when they're mowing their lawn, or lost some soil due to erosion, so when they're mowing their lawn, they're riding one wheel along the curb line or the driveway line and the other one up on the grass. So they're naturally kind of scalping into that little pocket. So maybe they need to add some topsoil there to kind of build that area up. I'm not going to sit there and say that their thatch is thick through there. That's typically not the case. It's just the grass is more dense through there, and they probably have less erosion in their, topsoil there. Without seeing a better picture, because this is a very, very limited picture here. Because I have the same issue at my property in my parkway the new property I inherited, there's a lot of it where they just let that grass go to shit and it died. So what did that happen? All the soil eroded. So there's a lot of areas I'm just not able to scalp yet, and I know I'm going to have to bring in some soil eventually. And I'm just not going to be able to edge it yet. And I'm just kind of just maybe weed eating a little bit of the higher grass along the curb line, but I'm just not able to edge it yet.
And for that person too, I would definitely be adding soil versus digging and removing soil. And anytime you're
because it looks
adding
nicer
soil,
with that 2 to 3 height along that edge.
No, that looks good. But anytime you're adding any type of soil to an area to try to build it up, it's going to be a gradual process. You're not just going to bring in 2 to 3 inches at a time. It's a half inch at a time, because otherwise anything more than that is going to suffocate the grass in that area and it will die out. So half inch at a time, about every month or two is what I'd probably say.
Yeah, I mean, the last picture on here is we have a weed on here. I even forget the name of it, because this is out in Decatur. It's more of a rural property. I'm not saying we've never seen this weed here on any of our properties. I feel like we're starting to get more and more weeds here in our treatment areas, especially as they continue to do more and more new construction in what used to be, more rural areas, and now we're taking over those areas with developments. We're seeing weeds and dealing with weeds that we used to never have to deal with, and now we're having to deal with them again. What was the name of that weed?
Carrot grass was one of them. I don't know what the other one was.
Santa Maria feverfew.
There we go.
It's a feverfew weed. So if you're the person that posted that and you haven't figured out what the name of that weed is, it's a Santa Maria feverfew, or a feverfew weed, also known as a famine weed, white top weed, carrot grass, Santa Maria. I'm sure their 2,4-D 3-way will be the perfect combination of weed control to kill it. If you're more of a organic approach, I'm sure you can do the vinegar approach as well. I'm not, an expert in all that, but I'm sure that would work as well. I don't really have anything else to go over as far as, getting your lawn to survive in the Texas heat. Just like I said, keep up your watering practices and your mowing practices for about another month and a half. And then you get to take a break for, 3-4 months, 4 months. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. I'm Brennan.
I'm Caven.
Thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this episode and that it has provided you with some good tips on how to keep your lawn looking its best. For more, be sure to subscribe to our show and follow us on social media. And remember, a greener lawn leads to a happier you.